Hey everybody, I'm Jesse. Now for those of you who don't know and are new to the channel, I'm a game developer. Now I have a confession to make. I play League of Legends. Sometimes I even play solo queue. Now if you're somebody watching who doesn't play League but has friends that do and you've talked to them about it, your conversations either go one of two ways. Either the first way of, oh hey, yeah, I play normals and I play with my friends most of the time, it's a pretty fun game, you should try it. Or there's the second way.
It sucks playing the shit! I'm fucking addicted! So I can't quit! Stop playing this shit!
And then they get sad, and then they're on their stairs, and then they hit you with the... Anyway, the point is that people have very different experiences playing League of Legends depending on what mode they play. And because of that, I don't really see a big problem with normals or ARAM. They're pretty fun modes to play with friends. The mode I want to talk about today is the one everybody always complains about. It's solo queue. Now everybody always complains about solo queue, and this is actually really helpful. Because the number one way that you can figure out what's wrong with your game is by listening to your community. Ultimately, there's just not that many people working at Riot compared to the amount of people that play their game. There's no way that you can accurately assess all of the problems based on your playtime. It is very important to listen to the complaints that people have, especially when it concerns the gameplay, solo queue, right? And the things that people complain about the most. Now I do want to quickly interject here before I move on and say that you should not listen to your community for everything. Your community is very good at finding problems, yes, but they are very bad at finding solutions. They're not game developers, okay? So a lot of the time they'll bring up solutions that just don't work. Think of it this way. You're a doctor, and you have a patient who comes in with a list of symptoms. Now, before they came in, they looked it all up on WebMD, and they think that they're going to die in one day from stage 18,000 terminal cancer. But when they come in, you look at their symptoms and they say, oh yeah, actually you just have the cold and you're fine. Your job is not to agree with them that they're going to die tomorrow. That's the point. So in any case, going back to League, I took the top 3 things people complain about when they're talking about solo queue. Matchmaking, unsportsmanlike behavior, and autofill. Now those are the main things I hear getting talked about online. If I missed anything, let me know down in the comments and I will address it in a follow-up comment. Anyways, figuring out a solution for these problems may seem daunting at first, but if we go at them one at a time, it's not so bad. First things first, let's address the biggest problem on the list, matchmaking. Everybody who's ever played solo queue in League of Legends has always had games where they just have a bad team and that's why they lose. This sucks, okay, and it happens to everybody.
Look at this! Look at the scoreboard! Are you kidding?
Now let's start with the number one and biggest issue on the list then, matchmaking. See, here's where a lot of people will say that they should just improve the algorithm. What does that even mean? I mean, League of Legends has one of the best, if not the best, matchmaking algorithms for competitive online play in a video game. Just getting bad teammates doesn't necessarily equate to a bad experience. What matters is the importance that is placed on those bad teammates. What I'm saying here to fix this problem of matchmaking is that we need to give more initiative to the individual player. Now when I say this, I'm not talking about changing anything to do with the balance of the game, because when we're trying to solve a problem as a game developer, we need to figure out everything we have control over. And as developers on League of Legends, we don't just have control over the game itself. We also have control of everything that happens outside of the game. The client, rank progression rewards, you get the idea. And so here's my solution. I call it skill-based ranked rewards. Now before I explain to you how this system works, I need to explain to you what Riot already has available within the game. The fact of the matter is that Riot has a lot of in-game hooks and triggers already built around ascertaining how well you do in a certain game. This feeds into a lot of different things, whether it's putting you in Smurf queue, changing how well you do in your champion mastery score at the end. They have a bunch of in-game systems that are built off of these in-game hooks and triggers. And so the simple question I ask is, why not use your individual performance in-game, something like your champion mastery score, to influence your LP game? Let me give you an example of the system in effect. Let's say you had a really good game, but you lost. Your team went a collective 5-40, even though you stole Baron and Elder Dragon, they still managed to lose a team fight because they were just that useless. This happened to me. I don't want to talk about it. So basically what it would do is if you have a good game, but you lose, you would lose less than the rest of your team, based on how well you did. And if I did really well in one, let's say I carry my team, I do really well, I win, I should gain like 40, even 50 LP maybe. And the rest of my team would gain normal amounts. If I lose and I cause my team to lose, I lose a lot more than the rest of my team. This works because we're not giving agency to players in terms of making solo carrying within the game really broken. We're giving agency to them in their ranked rewards. If you perform well on an individual level, you will be rewarded. There's a lot more that goes into how good you are as a player than just your win rate. Anyway, the idea behind the system is that there's no way to fix the algorithm so you're going to have a perfect match every game. It's just unrealistic. But what we can do is we can make it so that the bad ones don't have as much of an impact, and the good ones do. Now, moving on to the second issue of unsportsmanlike behavior is actually really easy from here, because the problem is pretty much already solved. What we need to understand about unsportsmanlike behavior is why it happens. Ultimately, it's because people feel like it and that there's not really good enough consequences for their actions in the game. Now, a lot of people say, well, Riot should just invest in having a team that makes sure that the integrity of solo queue games are upheld. Okay, this is a really stupid idea. Ultimately, there are a lot of solo queue games that happen every day. It's just the way it is. It is way too much for anybody to do, no matter the size of the team. It is something that has to be done automatically. There's only one issue with doing it automatically that Riot's running into right now, which is that they simply don't know if the bad behavior in-game is intentional or unintentional. But here's the thing about skill-based ranked rewards and why it removes this as an issue. The system only tells the differences between people based on their in-game performance. It doesn't care about intention. But that's okay, because the punishment is not a ban on the account. The punishment is a loss of ranked points. Ultimately, the point of all this is that it's impossible to punish people with flat-out bans for game-ruining behavior because it's impossible to tell intent on a large scale. But what is possible is to make sure that you don't encounter the same person 2 games in a row, and if they lose substantially more LP than you, it won't happen. So that solves the first 2 main problems with solo queue, and ultimately, I think most people really only care about those 2, but I'll talk about the third one, autofill, really quickly here. I don't really have much of a problem with autofill. I think it's a fine way of reducing queue times. Now, it does drop game integrity and make it a bit worse sometimes, but I think that Riot's recent improvements to autofill parity have helped somewhat, and I hope they continue to improve on that going into the future. That's pretty much all I have to say about autofill, though I actually don't have a solution for this one. But ultimately, there's my reasoning for how to implement a new system to fix solo queue. If you agree with me, or if you don't, let me know down in the comments. I'm more than happy to have a discussion with you guys. All in all, if you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing. It's free and it helps me out a lot. I mean, I'm a new channel here on YouTube, so everything helps. But all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.